The night sky above the mountains was black and silent. Staff Sergeant Ethan Cole sat inside the helicopter, checking his equipment one final time. Around him, 7 members of his Special Forces team sat quietly. They had completed dozens of missions together, but everyone knew that tonight felt different. Intelligence reports indicated that a dangerous insurgent leader was hiding deep within enemy territory. Their mission was simple on paper: infiltrate, gather intelligence, and extract before dawn. Simple missions rarely stayed simple. The helicopter flew low through the mountains, avoiding enemy radar. Ethan looked at a photo tucked inside his vest. His wife. His 8-year-old daughter. The people waiting for him at home. He smiled briefly before placing the picture back into his pocket. 30 seconds, the pilot shouted. The team prepared to rappel. Moments later, boots touched rocky ground. The helicopter disappeared into the darkness. The mountain swallowed them. For the next several hours, everything went according to plan. They moved silently through narrow valleys and steep ridges. By midnight, they had reached their observation point overlooking an enemy compound. Through night vision goggles, Ethan watched armed fighters moving around the camp. The team transmitted intelligence back to headquarters. Mission accomplished. Or so they thought. A sudden crack echoed through the darkness. Then another. Gunfire erupted from every direction. Ambush! The mountains exploded with muzzle flashes. The enemy had discovered them. Bullets tore through rocks around Ethan's position. The team returned fire immediately. For several terrifying minutes, chaos consumed the mountain. The enemy outnumbered them nearly 10-1. Fall back, their commander shouted. The soldiers began fighting their way toward an escape route. Then disaster struck. A rocket-propelled grenade slammed into the cliff above them. The explosion shattered the mountainside. Massive rocks crashed downward. Ethan felt the ground disappear beneath him. He fell. And fell. And fell. When he finally stopped, everything went dark. Hours later, Ethan opened his eyes. Pain shot through his entire body. The sun was rising. He found himself at the bottom of a deep ravine. His radio was destroyed. His rifle damaged. His left leg badly injured. Worst of all, he was completely alone. He tried contacting his team. Nothing. Silence. For the first time in his military career, Ethan faced every soldier's nightmare. He was stranded behind enemy lines. Alone. Hundreds of miles from safety. He checked his supplies. 1 pistol. 3 magazines. A combat knife. Half a canteen of water. A medical kit. Not enough. Not even close. Yet surrender was not an option. He thought about his daughter. The promise he had made before leaving. I'll come home. That promise became his mission. For 3 days Ethan traveled through hostile mountains. Every step felt like torture. His injured leg swelled painfully. The summer heat drained his strength. Food became scarce. Water became even scarcer. Several times he narrowly avoided enemy patrols. At night he slept beneath rocks and bushes. During the day he moved carefully, staying hidden. On the 4th day he found a small stream. The sight nearly brought tears to his eyes. He drank slowly. For the first time since the ambush, he felt hope. Then he heard voices. Enemy soldiers. They had found his tracks. Ethan immediately moved uphill. The chase began. For hours he pushed himself beyond exhaustion. The enemy followed relentlessly. When darkness finally arrived, he climbed into a narrow cave hidden high on a cliff. The soldiers searched below. Flashlights swept across the mountainside. One wrong movement would mean death. Ethan remained completely still. The search continued until dawn. Eventually the enemy moved on. He survived. Barely. The following week became a brutal test of endurance. His body weakened daily. Hunger gnawed constantly. His beard grew thick. His uniform became torn and filthy. Several times he considered giving up. But whenever despair appeared, he remembered his family. Their faces pushed him forward. One evening he reached an abandoned shepherd's hut. Inside he found old supplies. A blanket. A few canned foods. Most importantly, shelter. For 2 days he rested and recovered. The brief recovery saved his life. Because on the third night, enemy fighters discovered the hut. Gunfire erupted through the walls. Wood splintered around him. Ethan escaped through a rear window. The enemy chased him into the forest. The pursuit lasted all night. By sunrise, he had lost them. But his supplies were gone. Everything he had recovered was lost. Once again, he was alone with almost nothing. 2 weeks after the ambush, Ethan reached a region marked on his emergency survival map. Friendly forces occasionally operated nearby. If he could reach a specific valley, rescue might be possible. The problem was getting there. Between him and safety stood dozens of miles of enemy territory. The journey nearly killed him. A severe storm swept through the mountains. Rain poured endlessly. Temperatures dropped dramatically. Ethan shivered uncontrollably beneath a rocky overhang. For 2 days he battled hypothermia. His condition worsened. His strength faded. At one point he genuinely believed he would die there. Then something happened. He heard laughter. Not enemy soldiers. Children. A small village sat beyond the ridge. The villagers were poor but kind. An elderly man discovered Ethan collapsing near a trail. Instead of reporting him, the villagers secretly helped him. They provided food, water, medical care, a place to sleep. Though they barely shared a common language, Ethan understood their kindness. For 4 days they protected him. Those strangers risked their lives for someone they had never met. Before leaving, Ethan thanked them with tears in his eyes. Their compassion restored something inside him. Hope. 3 days later, Ethan finally reached the extraction valley. His emergency beacon still functioned. Barely. He activated it. Then he waited. Hours passed. Nothing happened. Night arrived. Still nothing. The next morning, enemy fighters entered the valley. Someone had detected the signal. A fierce gun battle followed. Ethan fought with everything he had left. One magazine. Then another. Then his last. The enemy closed in. He prepared for a final stand. Suddenly a familiar sound echoed across the valley. Helicopters. Friendly helicopters. Rescue forces had received the beacon. Special operations aircraft swept into the area. The enemy scattered. Rescue soldiers rushed toward Ethan's position. For a moment he simply stared. After 21 days behind enemy lines, help had finally arrived. He had survived. Weeks later, Ethan returned home. His daughter ran into his arms. His wife cried as she hugged him tightly. The reunion felt unreal. For 21 days he had fought death, fear, loneliness, and despair. Yet he had never broken his promise. He came home. Years later, Ethan would say the greatest lesson he learned wasn't about survival techniques or combat skills. It was about purpose. When everything else is stripped away, our strength, comfort, certainty, purpose remains. And sometimes, purpose is enough to carry a person through the darkest days of their life. The mountains had tested him. The enemy had hunted him. Death had followed him every step of the journey. But courage, hope, and love proved stronger. And that is why he survived.